Hello, everyone. It's Pro-Unitate podcast, the Usosan TNN collaboration. Today, we have a very special person in attendance in the name of Roland Ilube. For those of you who don't know Roland, I'll give you a brief history and description of the gentleman. He was born in the United Kingdom, and then he moved to Nigeria with his parents. This was in the 70s. He attended a Motown primary school and moved on to do his secondary school at Federal Government College, Warri. Makes him an Usosan, makes him an alumni. He completed his West African school certificate exams from FGC Warri, placed third in the whole of West Africa, a great pride to us. He returned to the UK after that to further his education. Had his A-levels at the Richmond upon Thames College in southwest London before gaining admission to the London School of Economics, where he obtained a bachelor's degree in economics, specializing in accounting and finance. After graduating, he joined the global accounting and advisory firm Coopers and Lybrand and qualified as a chartered accountant in 1995. This was while he was working in their audit practice. He later joined the global energy group Shell and is currently serving his 30th year with them. In that time, he's worked in Nigeria, he's worked in Cote d'Ivoire, he's worked in Gabon, and also in the UK across the major divisions of the group. He's recently been appointed as the Senior Vice President, Acquisitions and Divestments for Shell Global Downstreaming and Renewable Businesses. During his time at Shell, Roland has been a strong advocate for greater diversity in the UK corporate sector. He served as a member of the Business in the Community Race Leadership Team since 2017. Roland was awarded an OBE in the Queen's Birthday Honours List for services to diversity and inclusion. Chioma.
Well, I'm excited about the next bit because it shows that he picked it from school. Roland has been a keen cricketer ever since his secondary school days and still plays currently. In 1991, he founded, alongside his brother, the London Nigerians Cricket Club, which is still flourishing till date. He also had the honor of being selected to represent Nigeria at cricket internationally from 2004 to 2006 now, beg your pardon. Whilst working in Nigeria, he became captain of the Fegukowosa Cricket Club, a Lagos-based cricket club founded by old students of FGC Warri, and is still an active supporter of the team. In 2021, he was appointed as the trustee of the ACE program, a charity aimed at developing cricket in the Caribbean and African communities in the UK. He's happily married to Selma. He got married to Selma in 2000, and they have 3 boys.
It's a brief introduction.
Are we correct with everything?
Everything is correct. Everything you have said is correct.
Thank you. It's a brief introduction of you, Roland. Usosan is proud of you. We are proud of you. Thank you for your service, not just to Shell, but to humanity, to Usosan, to your alma mater, and to us all. I met you in the UK London plenary, and you were a guest speaker. I think your subject was directed at education. Why did you decide to talk about education? Why did you decide to attend the Usosan plenary? What do you see within the association? What's your vision? And what do you think, or where do you think the association should drive itself?
That's a deep question, David, and I could say the facile answer is I attended because my senior asked me to attend, and I'm obedient. And so when Senior Chilimera said that she wanted me to attend and to speak, I didn't feel she gave me much choice. But having said that, I did really want to be part of that historic occasion as the first plenary for Usosa in the UK, and if I'm not wrong, in the diaspora at large. And so I did think it was a huge honor to be not only in attendance, but also to have a major part in that gathering. The topic of education, I think, was an obvious one, given that in some ways was the unifying thing that brought that group of people together, that shared educational experience that we'd had across the various unity schools of Nigeria, and therefore it was a logical place to sort of kick off that discussion. And as I said that day, it's not because I am a particular expert in the field, as you've outlined the things that I've spent my time and where I have experience lie in different areas, but I felt it was then a great opportunity for me to pose certain questions to that group and to effectively tee up the discussion that followed thereafter around, how we want to develop the education in Nigeria via the unity school system going forward. And to come to the second part of your question around, where should Usosa be going in sort of the longer term? I think there are many aspects to that question, but first of all, from a diaspora perspective and from a UK diaspora perspective, I think first of all, as a network, I think that first of all to just create that network of people who again have that shared experience, are now doing different things, or at different points in their careers or in whatever they're doing. Bringing that network to get together is something that can enable us to create something that's more than the sum of its parts, that enables us to build a community that can then sort of thrive and build on itself. So I think that's probably the first and foremost thing that I would see as the next step for that organization.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah. So while he was reading your profile, I wondered and I said to myself, for FGC Warri that I know, a school in Delta, and looking at how far you've come from that boy that was in FGC Warri to who you are today, I just wanted to share, are there things that you do now and you say, this was what made me, because of where I'm coming from, because of the ideas, because of the experience? I just want to know if it had anything to do with the success story that we're celebrating today.
That's a great question, and something even as recently as this week, I said it in a meeting at work, and it's something I say regularly when people, when there are challenges, when there are issues, complex situations that we have to deal with, and I say it because it comes naturally to people. I say, look, I went to a boarding school in the Niger Delta. The challenges don't worry me, no, indeed. So I think that experience of growing up in, to be honest, was not always an easy time. Yeah, it wasn't always straightforward, but it built a resilience and ability to deal with situations that I think lasts throughout your life. And one of the common factors when I speak to my ex-classmates, a lot of whom I'm still in contact with, is we all share that sort of point of view of that resilience that we gained through our time in FGC Warri has really helped set us up for things that we've gone on to do later in our lives. There is another thing, though, that I also always say in relation to that is, I have never felt in my life after FGC Warri, either academically or professionally, I have never felt that I suffered from a sort of a differential in the level of education that I received in secondary school level. I came straight out of secondary school in Warri. As David mentioned, I went to do my A levels in Southwest London, and interestingly, at the time, even though I had my certificate, and as David said, it wasn't that I hadn't done well in my school certificate, but still that college, before they admitted me, they asked me to sit again a set of exams because they wanted to check if really I knew what I was talking about.
Right.
After I sat those exams there and then, the next day they called me up and they said, "Is everyone in your school like this?" I didn't tell them that I came third in West Africa, but I said to them, yeah, the education that we got was second to none. And that, again, I think has been a foundation on which I've been able to build for the rest of my life and my career.
Thank you. So, the quality of education you got was at the same level of the education you went into. Things have changed since then. What do you identify has changed? How do we bridge that gap? How do we go back to that level of education, in your opinion?
Yeah. And I'm glad you added "in your opinion," because again, I don't pretend to be an expert in the subject, but based on my observations from distance and sort of having heard from different people and seen what's going on, I think there are probably a couple of things I would identify. First of all, frankly, is just resource allocation. I think the resources that are allocated to the educational system, and particularly the public educational system, relative to the demand, to the number of students that the system has to cope with, I think that has gone out of balance. And so it's that the provision of education at the level that I was lucky enough to benefit from, I think naturally has been diluted by that failure of the allocation of resource to keep up with the demand. But possibly even more importantly than that, and this is something that I've heard from many sources, including from my brother, who actually is much more qualified in the matter of education than I am, having had direct experience with a number of schools. One of the things he's always stressed to me is the importance of leadership, and that's leadership. Not just from a sort of policy on an administrative level, but even more importantly at the level of the educational institution. And even with relatively limited resources, you know, the difference that high quality leaders, high educationalists who really know what they're doing, have a passion for what they're doing, can be the difference between a tremendous educational experience and a very negative educational experience. So again, the question I pose is, to what extent do we have really got to the quality of leadership in the system that is enabled to make the most of what will inevitably be an insufficient or finite amount of resource that is able to be allocated to the system that we have today.
Chioma, I'll give the floor to you in a moment. I just want to push on from what he said. The President General of Usosan, Michael Magaji, is very keyed in to what you've just said in terms of leadership qualities, especially in reference to education. I believe he's a member of certain boards of education in Nigeria. I can tell that he's trying to inculcate or input into the educational sector the values of Usosa. He's pushing that very hard. He's also pushing the drive in technology. You talked about your brother, who I happen to know a bit about. I know he's contributed a lot to a school in Ghana, I think, for gifted ladies. If I'm not 100% correct, you can tell me. And I know that he's a technology guru. So how does technology impact in this? How do we seek collaborations to improve the technological know-how of our people? Concentrating on Unity schools first, because that's our alma mater. And what impact do you think that will make?
So another excellent question, and again, this is a layman's answer that I'm going to give you. But I think technology in an educational context, and again, particularly in the context of the sort of the Usosa network, is both an opportunity and a threat. I think it's an opportunity because with the advancement of technology, I think it enables you to potentially bridge the resource gap that we talked about a few minutes ago in a way which doesn't require necessarily huge investment, lots of infrastructure, whether it's equipment, whether it's classrooms, whether it's teachers physically on location. Those you can bridge some of those gaps by the use of technology, and we start to see that now in all walks of life, and that's getting quicker and quicker with the pace of artificial intelligence and how that's being rolled out. So I think if we are smart about the use of technology, I think it can enable us to bridge that gap and make sure that we from a Unity School point of view, are able to keep pace with the world from an educational perspective. The threat comes from, I think, the speed with which you can fall behind if you don't do that. So standing still actually means you're going backwards. As the rest of the world starts to embrace and move on, whether that be not just, and in fact, maybe even not particularly in the sort of traditionally developed nations such as Europe and the United States, but looking at somewhere like India, for example. I was in India in early part of last year, and the speed with which technology there is being used, the familiarity that a lot of their sort of young base of graduates, of workers have with technology that is just second nature, means that if we don't embrace that, and if we are not on the front foot, I think that gap will get wider very, very quickly. So I come back to, I think on the one hand, it is a chance for us to leapfrog and keep pace, but if we don't seize that chance, I think we'll see that gap become a chasm.
Chioma.
So it's basically an emergency fund for us to make sure that gap is taken covered. What you're saying. Okay, so I am just going to talk about mentorship. You are very successful in your stories. What do you think? There's a generational gap between the Usosans then, the people that graduated then, maybe let's say your generation, and what it is now. Do you see any way of covering that gap? And I'm speaking to not just the students I'm speaking to even the ones that have left school, the old students of Unity School. Sometimes when you sit in a room, the gap is quite enormous. What do we do? How do you see? Is there any way to cover it at all?
Another excellent question. Thank you for that. And maybe I will start to answer that by drawing on my experiences in the workplace. And as David mentioned, I'm now in my 30th year in Shell, in the 34th year of my professional career, which means that, it was actually quite a while ago now that I started to see people coming into the workplace who weren't born when I started, at Shell. And so I feel that generational gap now every day more and more in the professional environment. And you are also, I think, correct to say, and it doesn't matter whether you put it in a sort of Unity School environment or another environment, that sort of difference in generational perspective is becoming more and more acute. And you can see it through the layers now of any kind of big structure or organization between, people of, my generation, which is often referred to as sort of the Generation X, and then you go through the millennials before you even get to the Gen Z cohort, which is now starting to come into the workforce, and Alpha is not far behind them. And so one of the things that I found is that it's a two-way street. I think the days where, as happened when I was sort of earlier in my career, when you sort of went to the senior leadership of organizations or companies to receive wisdom, as it were, is I don't think that works anymore, and I don't think it works for a couple of reasons. One is that's not how and I'm generalizing a little bit here, but that's not how Gen Z thinks. So, somebody, a new graduate into the company will come into my office and tell me that I think you ought to be doing this, and this. I would never have dared to even cross the threshold of the office without an invite when I started in this company. But now that's just a different thing, and I think we have to embrace it. But therefore recognize that it's a two-way dialogue. It's not just a one-way dialogue. The other point, and it's one that I make actually often to people of African or Caribbean heritage that I come across, is I don't think sometimes we leverage enough of what those who have gone before have to offer. And sometimes I think maybe because of that kind of difference in outlook, maybe they don't necessarily think that there's something that I can learn or pick up or take from the older generations. And one of the examples I give to them is, look, I get lots of people from other parts of, or from other backgrounds, whether it's from a traditional English background or from a South Asian background, and they come and ask me for my experience and knowledge and input, which I give them. And if you're not tapping on that, you are missing out. So you are not getting, you are not availing yourself of all the resource that might be helpful to navigate an organization like Shell or any other big organization. Something that somebody said to me very early on in my career was, it doesn't matter how smart you are, navigating your way through a company like Shell requires somebody to show you road, as they say. And so it's not just about, is this person going to be able to help me from a technical perspective, but can they give me some insight into how I make my way through this organization? So I think that two-way dialogue is something that we need to foster more, and both sides of that sort of generational divide need to recognize there's something they can learn from the other side, but also there's something they can give to the other side.
Thank you. With those of you who don't know, this podcast, Pro-Unitate podcast, was developed to share our success stories, try and project our success stories into leadership positions, try and become, using an example, the next CNN, where we can talk a bit more about our nation, our schools, the news, get people mentoring from our guests, and hopefully with your support we might be able to get there at some point. Anyway, Roland is not just an administrative type of guy. He's into sports as well, an avid cricketer. Why cricket? What was the motivation to cricket?
Another excellent question, and again a question that people have asked me often, and so I trace it back. I'll tell you the story. In 1981, I was like every other little kid, just coming out of Motown Primary School, as you rightly said that I went to primary school. I was football mad, like every other little boy in Motown Primary School. I had no idea what cricket was at that point in time. And for family reasons, I had to come and spend the summer in the United Kingdom. My father had an accident, and so he was hospitalized. So I came over with my mother for that summer. And what I didn't realize was that summer in the UK, there's no football. Football season then was off, and so I was hoping that I would come and be watching, the teams that I had read about in the magazines of those days, the shoot and the match and so on. I was saying I would come and watch Liverpool or Manchester United or Arsenal, but no, it was summer, the off season. But every day I turn on the TV and there's these guys wearing white wandering up and down on the TV. And I thought, well, as a curious little boy, let me figure out what they're doing. And so I sat there and I watched them day after day after day. And through that summer, I just got hooked on the game through watching and absorbing it. And the thing that I think, when looking back, that I found so sort of addictive about it is that it's a game on many levels. On one level, it's just simple. Somebody's bowling or throwing a ball and somebody's trying to hit it with a bat. That's a very simple concept that everybody can kind of understand. Someone's throwing something, someone's trying to hit it. But then you can layer on the context of what's happening at this particular point. Is someone trying to defend? Is someone trying to attack? You can layer on the rest of the fielders who are involved, like chess pieces and how they are being moved around to try and combat different situations. You can bring it up to the high strategic level, particularly when you're talking about, the longest form of the game, which goes on for several days. It becomes like almost how do you wage a campaign? Because what you're doing on the first day, you're thinking about what's going to happen on the second day, what's going to happen on the third day. So just those different layers of intricacy of the game just got me hooked. And then I was very fortunate, again, as you pointed out, on the way back to Nigeria, when I went back to go to Federal Government College Warri, it just so happened that I was one of the relatively few schools at that time in the country that had an active cricket program. So I remember again the first time when we went for our first cricket practice in Federal Government College Warri, and one of the senior boys said to us, "Look, I'm going to start explaining this game to you. It's a game that you won't have come across before. You won't know anything about it." And I put my hand up and said, "I know about it." And he said, "No, nobody knows about cricket." And then I told him, I'm sure for longer than he hoped to hear, everything that I knew about cricket. And he said, "Okay, this boy does actually know something about cricket." And so I was able to turn that newfound passion immediately into practice when I went back to Federal Government College Warri. And the rest, as they say, is history.
The rest is history. Absolutely. Chioma.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if you have, I keep going back to mentorship, I keep going back to passing the baton. Do you have any plans to make sure that game is still played in Warri? I'm just curious.
No, absolutely. So
sorry?
So please, no, finish the question before I answer.
So I'm just wondering if there's another little boy like you who would walk into Warri and say cricket is somebody that this is something you want to continue, a tradition in FGC Warri. I'll make it.
Absolutely, yes. And so that is why, as you mentioned when you were very kindly introducing me, that is why I'm still an active member of the Fego-Kurosa Cricket Club, which you are right is it plays in the cricket league in Lagos, so that is where it is represented. But the reason why myself and a number of other dedicated old students of Federal Government College Warri put our time and resource into that club is not just for it to play in the league, but also for it to serve as a conduit back to the school, so that we are able to use the structure of that club to make sure that cricket remains alive in the school. Now, that's not easy. There are competing demands, not just on the students, but also the resources. Making sure that there is a place for them to play, making sure that they have the kit that's needed. One of the challenges of cricket is that it's, in that sense, it's not as easy a game as football, where all you need really is a ball and everything falls into place. Cricket, there's a certain amount of structure that you need in order to really get the game going. But through the Fego-Kurosa Cricket Club, we try and provide both the human and physical resources to enable the game to keep thriving. Because, as you say, I and the others who are involved in it, because it is a collective effort, all want to provide that pathway that we were lucky enough to benefit from, that somebody else like us will get bitten by that cricket bug and be the person who carries the torch on for the next generation. So absolutely, it's something I'm passionate about.
Okay. You've traveled vast and wide. In your experience, what would you say to the leadership of Usosa? What value would you be able to give them to take away tonight?
I actually I met, as you said, the PG at the event that we had in London, in the UK, a few months ago, and I was really impressed by a number of the things that he set out as visions for Usosa, and I think therefore things that I would encourage anybody who is part of this big, growing and extending family to sort of think about. One is that sense of community. We are a community, and we are a community that is now global. From wherever you go in the world, we know that we have people who have that shared experience and heritage, and I think that's something that we can. On the one hand, I think I would invite everyone who is of that sort of heritage, if you like, to play an active part in it, to be present as part of it, but also I think for Usosa's leadership to really try and leverage the qualities, the gifts, the experiences of that vast network into something that can benefit the whole. That's one. I think the other thing that I know that is on the minds of leadership, and I think is very laudable, is providing a unified and very considered voice into the authorities, into the broader Nigerian authorities at government level, state level, federal level, and so on, as to, okay, what can this huge body of knowledge, intellect, and experience, how can we channel that through a unified voice into something that hopefully provides a useful contribution to policymakers as they are, hopefully thinking about things that will benefit our educational system going forward. So, one, how do we leverage the broad base of our collective sort of intake, and then secondly, how do we turn that into clear, concise, actionable things that policymakers can then take on board?
So it's not a two-way street, it's a conversation.
Absolutely.
Feel free to ask us your thoughts or on anything we're doing at the moment. We'll be happy to respond.
I think one of the challenges of any organization, and I've seen this, maybe on a smaller scale in sort of something like the London Nigerian Cricket Club, which again, as you mentioned, is something that I set up with my brother as an idea that we had over coffee, and here we are more than 33 years later actually, and it's still going strong. But there are two challenges with any kind of voluntary organization, and at the end of the day that Usosan relies on the voluntary spirit of people to be part of it. One is getting people to feel a sense of passion for it, and to give therefore their time and their mental energy to it, which I think is, from what I've seen, I think you're doing a great job of. But I'd be interested to hear a little bit how you do that, how you get more people involved, because you can always do with more people. And then secondly, again, with any endeavor is sort of financial resource, and again, how do you go about making sure that you have the wherewithal to execute some of the programs that you want to execute?
I'll speak on TNN, New Nigerian, and I'll let Chioma speak on Usosan. With the New Nigerian, one of the reasons it was formed was to bridge the gap between diaspora and Nigeria. We thought, why don't we do what we call the reverse brain drain? Get the best in diaspora, get them to collaborate with the best in Nigeria, see if they can come up with projects. We've been going for 5 years this year. It hasn't been easy. There's no gain, it's all selfless. Everything we do is from out of personal pocket. However, the joy is seeing that what we're doing is gradually manifesting. In collaborating with Usosan, it's a very big break for us, because we get to have people like you on board. As much as we don't want to solicit, because we believe in actions deliver quality, we do like people to click on the subscribe button, ring the bell. That will help us in terms of technology. We've done quite a few things. Yes, no problem. We've contributed in education in some ways. We support a school for orphans in Abuja. We've contributed in agriculture. I've got 50 plots in my dad's village where I'm trying to get them to grow crops. We've contributed in health. So in speaking with people in diaspora, we've been able to get people to do projects in Nigeria itself. So we have an Usosan in Canada who is actually running what he calls Health for Schools in Nigeria. Okay, so they deliver health projects, set up clinics in the little schools within the communities. And then I think my greatest passion is giving back to the children. Last year was my 4th edition of Feeding the Children, where I get a few diasporans to contribute, and we feed over 200 to 300 children. This obviously at some point I will send all this information to you. However, with regards to Usosa, the passion I have, I got from realizing that people want to get together. We need to be together to collaborate. We need to be together to improve humanity. In terms of finance, obviously Usosa is an association that definitely needs a lot of support. I believe we have the people in place to support. I just want them to know that everything we're doing, especially on the Pro-Unitate podcast, will go a long way to sensitize the people. And like I said previously, hopefully with your support and a few others, we can grow even bigger. The ambition is quite large. CNN, Fox News, obviously not with propaganda. I beg your pardon for that, but it's my personal opinion. And obviously in Nigeria, Arise. We wish to get to that level, and I'm sure that at some point you will take a note of that. Chioma, speak to Usosa.
Okay, so from our end in Usosa, I believe maybe because of my public relations background, I believe that when a brand has value, automatically people just migrate towards the value. So the work we're doing, the previous government, I have served as assistant secretary for 4 years before I decided, but I have a PR background, why don't I give back to Usosa by using what I have to build this brand? Because the numbers, we have the numbers. So for the passion for me and for every other person who I think have walked this path is, let's grow the brand. If we grow the brand, there will be a time when people will want to identify with the brand because they see value. So I believe that that's what drives most of the people that do the thankless of. I stay in Port Harcourt, but I'm in Abuja because something has to be done by Usosa. So that's until we grow that and see. You mentioned is a two-way thing. When we get the Gen Zs and we get the other generations together to come to a point where value is created, because we are enriched having both worlds. So I think first that's the drive. And then when it comes to financial bit, I said people will also put their money where they think that value will come out. So they work in hand. While we're building the brand, we are hoping that it comes to a point where people will start committing because they're seeing the work. And my prayer for Usosa is that you mentioned that it gets to a point where no decision is taken without saying, let's have a Usosan on the table, because they understand resilience, they understand how Nigeria, what Nigeria needs. So I think that's the drive. And eventually, financially, by the time people see value, they will commit to the movement.
Excellent, thank you.
Chioma, it's that time where we have to let our guests go, as usual. 1 hour flies by very quickly. Please do the closing, and then let's give Roland the last word to the audience.
So for me, I would just want to say thank you to TNN for this collaboration, and it speaks to the fabric of our brand Usosa. If you say you're creating a new Nigerian, we're built to be the new Nigerian. So the collaboration, I want to thank you for the opportunity for this platform to be able to speak to our success stories. Today we've had, I'm sure by the time this is published, someone will sit and look at his journey, where he's coming from and where he is today. And that little person, that person who's just starting out in their career will say, I can do this. If he did it, then I'm on my way to creating value. So thank you to TNN, and we want to thank our guests. You've been phenomenal. The stories, and because again, my background, storytelling is the best form of selling a brand. So thank you for coming. And as the links will be scrolled on the screen, just with a click, follow us on our YouTube, TNN, Usosa. We'll share it to go across the screen, and we hope that one story after the other will come to everything that we're supposed to be, and that's becoming a new Nigerian.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David. I know that you've been saying that you'd like to make this happen for a long time. So I'm really pleased that finally you persevered and we're here today. It's been a wonderful conversation. I'm really glad to be part of this, to contribute a little bit to the endeavors that you and others are making in this space. Thank you so much for the thoughtful and reflective questions, which has also made me think and consider about the journey that I've been on. As it's sometimes you think that things happen because you have a grand plan. It's not necessarily the case, but sometimes you look back and you think about, well, these are the different opportunities or sliding doors moments that enabled you to get to wherever you got to, and this discussion has enabled me to reflect a little bit on that. So I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roland. Again, you're right. Perseverance. It looks like it's a trait of Usosans. We've got here definitely. Obviously, when we finish the conversation, we'd like to keep you back for a minute so we can talk some personal things. I'd like to thank the audience for taking time out to listen to us. I hope that we've delivered value. Roland's experience is very, very, the word I'm trying to look for is, the experience is vast. The knowledge is great. We know where he has come from. We know where he is. We don't know where he's going, but we know that it's in the right trajectory. Again, thank you, Chioma, for being a wonderful co-host. I always like working with you. And we'll let the audience go, and then we'll keep Roland back for a minute. We know he's a busy man. Please don't forget to click the like buttons on our social media handles. It's TNN Usosa on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter. You know where everything is. With your like, with your subscribing, we can grow and get technology money to improve the platform. Thank you, audience. Have a good evening.